an underwater UFO as large as a football field, moving at hundreds of miles per hour underwater.
Have you met with people with direct knowledge or have direct knowledge yourself of non-human origin craft?
Yes, I personally interviewed those individuals.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Aliens exist and President Trump knows about it.
But the United States and Israel have been in contact with a group of aliens for years.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology.
We are not all to be traced back to one blob of germplasm.
And the implant is finally removed.
There's no evidence how the object got inside the body.
Can you comment on the drones? Our military knows where they took off from. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Hello guys, good to see you. Good to be back, man. I'm sorry for the delay, there's always something. So I was waiting for my parcel to arrive. But he did not arrive, so I was waiting for nothing. Anyways, I'm glad you're here, man. I'm glad you're around. And we're here for the second round, man. I'm gonna split this part into 2 parts. Because the second part of the God Eaters is even longer. My boy cooked, you know? My boy cooked. He was cooking bad with this one. So like, the first part, let's say we scratched on the surface, kinda. Now we're getting more into it, man. Deeper, deeper, and deeper. So, yeah, man. I cannot wait. So you better grab some popcorn, some snacks, and be ready to take off into the realms of darkness, man. Into the abyss of bad things you don't want to do, man. Bad things you don't want to do. So, okay. Maybe my camera is gonna freeze every now and then. Don't worry, bro. I'm gonna let the documentary keep running and try to fix it. So I'm probably gonna be able to talk, nevertheless. Even though you don't see me or I seem to be freeze. I'm working on it. It's a problem with my camera and cable, you know. So, yeah, man. Technical problems. Kinda hard, bro. But anyways.
You start waking up from the hypnotic trance of the official lie. The word "they" is often used to lay blame on the perpetrators. This is usually followed by the question, who are they? According to ancient history, religion, mythology, and occult tradition, they are not human, and they have been manipulating humanity from the shadows for millennia. The Gods of Eden by William Bramley does an excellent job of tracing this back through all of recorded history. But let's just start from the late 19th century. Just over a century ago, it was known that giants with red hair and double rows of teeth once inhabited America. These 9-foot-tall giants were written about casually in 1874 by Abraham Lincoln. A few years later...
Okay, my boy's already deep in. Dude, give me a second. Let's rewind that. So the eyes of that species of extinct, alright, giant, whose bones fill the mountains of America, have gazed on Niagara as ours do now, contemporary with the whole race of men, and older than the first men. Niagara is strong and fresh today as 10,000 years ago. Well, that is interesting. Never heard of that one. Abraham Lincoln, thank you for this one. Nice quote.
Casually in 1874 by Abraham Lincoln. A few years later, the Smithsonian Institute began confiscating giant mummies and skeletons by the thousands. In 1886, the exclusive Jekyll Island Club was founded and built upon an ancient burial site of the Timucua tribe, who were said to be giants. In 1910, the Federal Reserve banking conspiracy was hatched on Jekyll Island between the Rothschild banking dynasty and the Rockefeller family, whose cabin there was known as Mound Cottage and said to have been built upon a sacrificial altar. These powerful families worked together to hide the truth of our mysterious past, and they built a modern society with poison to keep us dumb and lies to keep us confused. The Rothschild dynasty and the Federal Reserve banking system funded all sides of the First and Second World Wars, which paved the way for the creation of the United Nations in 1945.
Dude, already this is something you can dig into like for a long time, you know. So I gotta say, I gotta be honest, man. I have quite some missing links to the whole, you know, World War I, World War II story narrative, and like all the financial things that were going on behind the scenes back then. So yeah, man, lots of things to discover. Lots of things to discover. So starting off very, very good. Still need some time to get into it, man.
Funded by the Rockefellers, the UN was the beginning of today's de facto world government. The Nuremberg trials resulted with only 12 sentenced to death and 7 sent to prison. The majority were allowed to professionally continue their criminal activities. Nazis who were tried for medical experiments involving cruelty and murder were later brought into Big Pharma through Operation Paperclip, and an entire team of Nazi rocket scientists were brought in to start NASA.
Mr. Werner von Braun. Mr. Werner von Braun did a video, well, not only about him, you know, but I mentioned him. So if you want to more know about Mr. Werner von Braun, one of the founders of NASA, interesting correlations with, let's say, time travel, Elon Musk, stuff like that, you know. Alone the fact itself that he's like connected to the Nazis, you know, well, connected, let's say, one of them could be interesting, So you might want to look into the videos. You see, there are connections everywhere. And this is what I'm talking about, like having connections everywhere. That's what it's about, man.
While the Nuremberg trials may have been mostly theater, they had their revelations. It was revealed that the Nazi eugenics program stemmed from organizations in America funded by the Rockefeller Foundation and its offshoots. And it was revealed that many high-ranking Nazis believed they were in contact with an alien race known as the Aryans, the same mythical race that allegedly created Hinduism as it is known today. While many Hindu scholars dismissed the claim, the Nazis believed it. It is why they adopted the popular Hindu swastika. They also studied the Vedas, and their most classified project, the Bell, had the same design as the Vimana spacecraft described in these ancient texts.
I'm sorry, guys, man. I have to... Dude, my boy's cooking. That's what I said. It's like, he's bringing up everything, man. The Bell is like, With the Bell, though, if you have any information, if any good, like, you know, any book that you can recommend, I did found one book that I want to look into. It's super hard to find legit research on this Bell thing. So yeah, man, I was looking up, asking people already. No one could give me really something of value, I feel like. So if you have something connected to the Bell, man, and you feel like it's worth to look into, leave it in the comments, man, or leave it in the chat. And as well, if you're new here, man, welcome to my channel. I'm Jody, and yeah, man, it's on my channel Enigma. We are basically researching everything, you know. Already the video we are looking at is, you know, something, and I don't even know what to say. We're researching life, miracles of life, man. What is happening? Why is the world so up? You know, that's what we are looking into. So let's continue. Hit the like button. Leave a comment, man. Leave a comment. Say hi.
In 1971, a young Klaus Schwab, son of a Nazi nuclear scientist, was placed as the head of what is now known as the World Economic Forum by his mentor, Henry Kissinger. In 1974, Rockefeller protege Henry Kissinger wrote National Security Memorandum 200 for the United Nations. This is popularly known as the Kissinger Report and is one of the foundational documents of the depopulation agenda unfolding today. With Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum acting as the tip of the spear. And so who are they? Several will say it's the Rothschild family, but they seem to work for the crown. Others argue that the Vatican holds more sway. Many people insist it's the Jesuits, and some swear it's the Jews. According to occult records, a character named Sanat Kumara rules over the world from inside the earth.
Oh boy. Oh boy. We're getting into everything. Dude, this is like a compilation of every conspiracy theory I did hear about, you know, Agatha, Hollow Earth, the Aryans. Dude. Bro, I didn't expect that one. But this is also not the main guy, you know, researching that thing. So this is just like a video that he was adding onto his own speech, you know, so let's not forget that. But this is a combination of a lot of things. Hard to believe, I think, if you did not, you know, research that stuff for some time. Most of people, I think they will just shut off and be like, yeah, well, sure.
Group known as the Great White Brotherhood, 7 in total. Helena Blavatsky says these 7 Kumaras are the same as the 7 Dhyanis, the 7 archangels, and the 7 Elohim. The 7 representing the 7 sisters, also known as the Pleiades star cluster. NASA, which was started by Nazis, Freemasons, and Satanists, has been obsessed with both Pleiades and Orion ever since the Apollo moon missions. According to hundreds of alien abductees, that is where most aliens claim to be from. 2 different factions, one to help liberate humanity and the other to enslave us. It is the oldest story on Earth, good versus evil, the darkness and the light, the white hats and the black hats. It is a struggle within each one of us and is unfolding in the world around us for all to see. A more beneficial inquiry might be, who am I?
Give me 1 second, bro. Give me 1 second. You're too fast. Well, I think I know that one. Yeah. Okay, all the symbolism stuff that you can find almost everywhere, you know. Saturn itself, man. Saturn is like a whole nother topic. I mean, my boy David Icke is talking about Saturn for ages. Super, like, deep research and very, very abstract as well, man. It's hard to grasp things like this, you know. But, man, there's a lot of stuff to that, definitely. Damn. Damn, bro. Makes me want to go into the mosh pit, bro.
Welcome back. You're seeing part.
Okay, I'm sorry, bro. Just want to say, I want to go and jump into the mosh pit, man. Wall of Death, I'm coming for you, bro. Damn. Charles Swindoll. You got the vibes, bro. Nice song.
Part 2 of Khazarian Mafia, The God Eaters. I welcome you. I'm sure that you've already seen part 1. Part 1 was a big hit. I cannot believe how many people watched part 1. I don't know what, I don't know why that was the case, but I guess
Because you're a good guy, man. You're fighting for the right thing, bro. So I appreciate you. Seriously. Thank you for being able to watch you talk and clarify those things and bring up all this knowledge to people like me and other people watching. So thank you so much, man. Appreciate you, Charles. Swindoll. Or Swindoll. I don't know how you pronounce it properly.
I hit a nerve with this. So I'm happy about that. And I'm really hoping that today we can cover some amazing ground. I have some awesome information that, had I known this kind of thing much earlier in my life, I would have made such better decisions for myself. I spent so many years involved in a belief system, and it really messed up my thinking. It really messed up how I understood the world. And I mean, I guess this is a good way to start off, but 3 gentlemen were critical and instrumental in my recovery, in getting out of a system of belief. Those 3 men were Terence McKenna, Dr. Joseph Campbell, and Alan Watts. And actually today, I'm going to open up with a little story from Alan, because these guys, those 3 gentlemen, were so helpful to me in my life.
Right,
They'll
guys.
be helpful to us today as we cover some ground that's going to be extremely challenging. I kind of have to calm down. My heart is really racing right now because there's a lot of really amazing information coming, and I can't rush it. I have to be very calm. So in a lecture that Alan gave years ago, he's since passed away, but in a lecture that he gave years ago, he told a story of a woman who approached him and said to him that she was deathly afraid of black widow spiders. And she wanted to know how to cure her fear. And Alan said to her, well, there's really only one way to cure your fear, and that is to learn about, to know what you're afraid of, because it's what we don't know that causes fear. It's what we don't understand and don't know that causes fear. And so he said, I want you to go to the library, and I want you, this is back before the internet, I want you to, he said to the lady, I want you to go to the library, and I want you to get every single book you can find on black widows, every single picture book, every single scientific book, every single book that you can find on black widow spiders. And I want you to read everything, look at everything, and I want you to spend days, weeks, months if you need to learn everything there is to know about black widow spiders. Okay, I guess she was a local, because he said she came back to him at another lecture later on. He was down in San Francisco where he did most of his work. He lived on a ferry boat, which is awesome because that ties into Buddhism, but I can't get carried away with that stuff. Mm-hmm. So he was at another lecture, and she came back to him, and she said, you're not going to believe this, but I not only am not afraid of black widow spiders anymore, I've actually started to collect them. And right there is a brilliant example of one of the greatest truths in philosophy, and that is, when you know yourself, you conquer all your fears, because you're no longer afraid, because you know who you are. And then, as well as things that you are afraid of that are outside of you, when you learn them, you conquer all your fears. And so today, that's a wonderful introduction to today, because today we're going to learn how to conquer our fear in regards to the Khazarian Mafia, and we're going to follow them from about where I left off last time. And by learning about them, we're no longer going to be afraid of them, and we won't be afraid of their symbolism. Some of the symbolism I have in here is pretty frightening, and so you'll need to learn about these things, to know these things, so that they're not frightening anymore, and they'll just become benign. They'll just become just another aspect of life, another characteristic of life, another experience in life that you come to know through experience. Okay, so, my goodness. So with that in mind, let's
I feel you, bro.
Head over to my little time map here that I didn't spend hardly any time on. I spent so much time on this, I should have. But I want to recap a little bit of what we looked at so that we're all on the same page as to what's happening.
I try to follow, Charles.
Now, one of the best things to know when you begin to study history are the ages, the major ages. And so I have written them down here, the stone.
So, one thing, I gotta be clear. I'm super bad with numbers like that. Especially because, I gotta be honest, history during school was never my thing because it was super boring. Like, my intuition was telling me this is not, I wasn't thinking it consciously at that time, but looking back to it, man, I feel like my inside knew that this is just the BS part of history, you know? This is the part that doesn't give me any value. So I wasn't really interested into history. So now I'm starting to, you know, try to force myself a little bit to like remember certain times, you know, and because there's so much happening, looking at the whole world and how everything connects. Oh man, I wish I'd be 14 again, so I could learn quicker, but I'm glad our boy's covering that for us. So yeah, man, again, appreciate you, Charles, for your work. Go watch the original video, leave a comment there, and leave a like, subscribe to his channel, man.
Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, and the Roman Age. And by knowing this order, this chronological order, you're going to better understand the events in history. And by better understanding these things, you can find the patterns. And by finding the patterns, man, that's how you understand something, and that's how you conquer fear.
The patterns,
and
bro.
Just find the similarities, and it'll all begin to make sense to you. Okay, so going back to the beginning, this bloodline we've been tracing of the Khazarian Mafia, a number of the witnesses that I have watched and read testimonies of and so forth talked about how the Luciferians that preyed on them would claim their lineage back to the Amalekites. And so that's how Amalekite has continued to come up in my dialogue here with you, is because that's where I'm getting the evidence that I'm getting out of the videos I'm watching, the books that I'm reading, and all that I'm gathering to pull this stuff together. There's been a common theme of Amalek and the Amalekites. And this is Amalek, and as we saw in the last video, Amalek, this means liquors of blood. Mm-hmm. But what I want you to notice here on my timeline, and this is what all this has been building up to, is this 1 BC notation on this map I've got here. So you see in purple there 1 BC, and it says trade routes, China to Europe open. I'll never forget this, but years and years ago when I was fighting cancer, I was watching a lecture series by Dr. Joseph Campbell called Mythos. And he mentioned in that series that these trade routes that opened up between China and India and on into the West are what eventually destroyed Rome. And the reason why these trade routes eventually destroyed Rome is because these trade routes opened the path and gateway for the cynics, for the Eastern religions and principles that were brought into the West. And so you had these people that had migrated over, and they came in and they brought great challenge to the spiritual fundamental that was prevailing in Rome. And as anybody would know, if you destroy the prevailing spiritual notion of a group of people, that people will split apart. People die for their religions. People die for their belief systems. Mm-hmm. And so it's essential that any community of people is united. They are united in a spiritual sense, in a spiritual understanding that that particular culture has captured. Now, we all know in this age of information, we all know as time is moving on and so forth right now, that it's not a good idea to be in a hive mind. It's not a good idea to be locked down to one particular belief system. But what you have to understand is they had no internet at this time. Communication was hard to come by.
Yes.
And so what you knew was what your local community knew. And so if you break apart a city in their belief systems, in their spiritual system, who their gods are, what their traditions are, what their annual traditions are, what they celebrate, who they worship, all this kind of stuff. If you break that up, that society is doomed. And it was Dr. Campbell's contention that essentially, at the end of the day, it was the spiritual dissolving of Rome that eventually broke the thing apart. And then that combined with the corruption at the top of the scale, and that is our concern, the Khazarian Mafia. And they had already infiltrated Rome. And this is what isn't understood, and I've got some great videos I'm going to show you today that's going to show you how we went from Rome and this ancient Iron Age and this brutality age and fighting and war age into this whole psychological, spiritual age that was birthed with the birth of the Roman Catholic Church in 325. And so what's really critical in understanding yourself and in understanding this group and history and so forth is bridging that gap. and in understanding those ancient peoples were the ones who formed modern society. Nothing happened or ended them. Their core corruption, the corruption that corroded and destroyed Rome, is the same corruption that corroded and destroyed the Catholic Church, that is destroying the Catholic Church. It's the same corruption, because all of these these groups worship the black sun. They are Satanists. And so whether they know it in that language or not is beside the point. The point being that is the spiritual center. That's the uniting point. That's the principle that undergirds the Khazarian Mafia, is this Satanism, this Luciferianism, this black sun worship, Baal worship, the sacrifice of individuals, the sacrifice and consumption of children. This is all what underlies this group. And I'm trying to show you through this lecture is that it has always been that way.
That's the thing. That's the
thing. They have always been cannibals. This goes all the way back past the Canaanites. And it's past the Canaanites because it was the Canaanites who were communing with this evil to understand and learn this control system, this mind control system, this sadistic system of worship that controls societies and oppresses and sacrifices societies. Okay. And so what I'm trying to do here now is bridge that gap. So one of the critical elements, one of the veins that's going to bring you understanding are these trade routes. And if we look at our map here,
Khazaria.
I've superimposed this picture of Khazaria. Now to remind you, this is Khazaria. And as you see, it's right there between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, just north of the Caucasus Mountains, which is just north of the Levant. They're next to the Mediterranean, as I showed you in the last video. Now look, I've taken that picture here, you see? And I've taken that picture and I've superimposed it, done my best to size it correctly, to not only show you the size of Khazaria, you see, but how the trade routes from India and China all pass through this area. Now what's critical to understanding in how the Khazarians gained wealth and power are the trade routes, because they were bringing the money. They were marauders. The Khazarians were marauders.
They were basically just camping there, you know. They were just camping there like, hey man, did you want to pass this route? So you want to pass over some money, bro? Gonna give me the peso, hermano? Gonna give me the peso, hermano? Dude, I can tell right away how they were, man. Not nice people, not nice people.
Marauders, and they not only had tolls and taxes that they levied on travelers that went through there, but they actually preyed on the families. And I told that whole story in the last one, no need to go into it because we have so much to cover today.
Yeah, bro.
And so they would prey on these families as they would pass through, and you could see right there, as they're passing through this area to get to the west, you cannot avoid Khazaria. You can't avoid it.
That's crazy.
It's right in the middle of things. And this is how, from 1 BC, we get to 100 AD, that 100 years between the trade routes opening and the beginning of Khazaria, as we find in this essay we're going to be reading today. It's during that time frame that this whole system develops, and Khazaria basically is born, because they have this unlimited supply of money that's coming through their travelers, human meat, human sacrifice, and then they take on the identity of those people and move into the West eventually. But they build a nation off of these travelers. Okay, and it gets so bad that eventually Russia forces them to choose between one of 3 religions, and that's where we're going to get to. But what I wanted to do in this essay was to tie together that those trade routes opening and then the eventual birthing of Khazaria in 100 AD, and then that's going to carry us also through the birthing of the church that's coming up in another 250 or so years after 100 AD, and we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the symbolism. We're going to get into looking at Saturn and black sun worship and how this has translated into Western society, Western symbolism, Western religion. We're going to look at all of that, and this is all tied into these trade routes, the Khazarian Mafia, everything. It's going to be unbelievable. You guys are going to understand it all.
Bro,
okay,
I'm
so
getting
the basis
so hyped.
of this lecture I'm giving you today is the hidden history of the incredibly evil Khazarian Mafia. by Mike Harris, PhD. Now, before we begin, understand that I've had to do some editing for time. I've timed this out, and I've come to almost 3 hours to do this lecture, and so that's completely crazy. So I have had to cut out some paragraphs, and what I've done is they're non-binding, meaning they're not paragraphs that destroy the point of the essay, which is to communicate the history of the Khazarian Mafia. They're like little ornamentations that go along with the essay to help you better understand. And so, having said that, it'd be a good idea to read it first before you watch this, so you get the whole thing first, and so you'll know the parts that I've skipped, and you'll know the paragraphs that I've had to omit simply for time. So understand, this isn't a word for word copy of the essay from Mike Harris. I have had to take out some sentences and some paragraphs to make this thing fit and to make it make sense to you in the amount of time that we have, which isn't much. Okay, the present day Khazarian Mafia, KM, he uses the letters KM for Khazarian Mafia all through this. So that's what KN is. The present day Khazarian Mafia, KM, knows that it cannot operate or exist without abject secrecy, and therefore has spent a lot of money having its history excised from the history books in order to prevent citizens of the world from learning about its evil beyond imagination that empowers the world's largest organized crime cabal. Now, what you've got to understand, let me make a little correction here. What you've got to understand is the reason why you don't know anything about the KM is because they have erased themselves from history. They have buried themselves in other histories. Mm-hmm. So just like Western religion appropriated pagan traditions and buried those pagan traditions underneath its umbrella of Western traditional spirituality, so nobody knows anything about the pagan history for the most part. Nobody knows that the annual rituals and the celebrations and so forth are based on pagan rituals. That's why...
Dude. Big time. Big time. And I feel like this is the part why a lot of people don't really, it's very hard for them to believe that the thing itself, when you talk about like, oh, the Khazarians, they're so evil, is like, who are the Khazarians? And then you're like, well, yeah, you don't know really how to start, right? Because this is so big, as he's showing us, that they erase themselves. So it's, you actually have to tell them who they are, not to get clear who they are, The question is, who aren't they? And this is very well made, very well made. So just talking about them is so hard because it never really is, but who are they? It's always the same thing that is in the room. Wow, super interesting, man.
Easter still chosen by the moon. And so the average everyday Westerner has no idea that their symbolism is buried in paganism. Mm-hmm. Okay, and in the same way, when you look at history, buried underneath the history they've given you, you have no idea what actual history is, because the Khazarian Mafia have buried it under wars, have buried it under failed societies. And so what is lost is the true history, and you're given this pseudo-history that the Khazarian Mafia has basically indoctrinated you with, indoctrinated me with, us all, because we all were trained under their systems, and I've got a video for that too. I hope we have time for all the stuff that I've got coming. Okay, it was Mike Harris that connected the dots and made the actual discovery of the presence of the KM's secret history and blood oath to take revenge on Russia for helping Americans win the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, and their blood oath of revenge against America and Americans for winning these wars and sustaining the Union. I have underlined that for a very critical reason, and that is for you to know why, for the last however many decades, you have heard a constant repeating of Russia, 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 anti-Russia, Russia's the bad guy, Russia.
Dude. Oh my God. I don't know. One thing. Okay, I think we're crispy. Dude, the Russia thing is actually crazy, man, because Especially here, man, in Germany, dude. Even now, man, we have the Epstein files that are out, right? So we have the mails where they talk about actually that Mr. Epstein was working for the Rothschilds. Die Rothschilds. Yeah, right? Germany. Aus Deutschland. And those guys in Germany, like the government, the media, still be like, there are articles out, right? Where they're like, oh, now that the Epstein files are out, it seems to be the case that Epstein was working for Putin. Dude, it's always Putin, man. Bro, you cannot make this up, I swear. This is so funny. It's like always Russia. Oh, it was probably Russia. The Russian agents. In movies, it's always the Russians, man. If there's like a cyber attack, that hacker is probably a Russian guy. But this is so interesting to see where all this is coming from, right? Damn. Told you it's not gonna be easy.
Russia is evil. Russia is terrible. Russia is destroying the world. On and on and on it goes. Okay? And all of us were buried within that inculcated idea that Russia is the source of all evil. Now, what you need to understand is Russia played a critical war in keeping the Khazarian Mafia from taking over the world. They played a critical role in keeping the Khazarian Mafia from taking over the world. And we're going to outline that, but this hatred of Russia goes all the way back to when they told the Khazarian society, you're either going to worship one of these three religions or we're going to destroy you. And then they went in and destroyed them 100 years later because they didn't stop. We're going to get to that. And that was the seed. The seed of hatred for Russia was born right there when Russia came in and destroyed ancient, original Khazaria, right there between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea.
That is interesting.
Okay, and drove them out and drove them into Bohemia. We'll get into that. Okay, so looking on our little timeline here, this is now past the timeline I had before. This is a new timeline, and I have the ages written down. You can see there at the bottom it says Dark Ages, Reformed Age, Industrial Age, and Modern Age. These are the ages, the themes that carry society through time. And they're underneath these themes because these are the prevailing technology, the prevailing force, the prevailing energy that is driving these societies. And that's why you had the Stone Age, the Iron Age, the Bronze Age. It is that metallurgy that's driving the power of that society. And so in the same way, you now have here in these next ages, look here, you have the Middle Dark Ages. What is happening in the Middle and Dark Ages? Knowledge is kept from the people. When you keep people outside of truth and outside of information, you keep them in the dark. And the dark, who drove the Dark Ages? The Catholic Church drove the Dark Ages because they hid the truth. They hid the truth that it is all within you. And they buried it. This is going to be, okay, this is going to be getting into the stuff that's going to be really hard for a lot of people to hear. And I really hope you have the stomach and the perseverance to listen through this, because this is really critical in understanding how the Khazarian Mafia have hid themselves, because they hid themselves within the Catholic Church.
In 313, Emperor Constantine proclaimed the Edict of Milan. The edict approved Christianity as a legal religion of Rome and gave legal privileges and immunity from military duty and taxes to the Christian clergy. There was the political goal of Constantine underlying such kinds of preferential treatment. It was Mithraism, the sun worship religion, that was diffused throughout Rome. But all the Roman emperors deified themselves and enforced people to worship them. Some of the nobility were fascinated by the Egyptian mystery religion. So, Rome suffered from religious dissension within itself. At this, Constantine tried to make the best use of Christianity that had spread throughout the whole region of Rome, despite all sorts of persecution. This was because he thought that Christianity could solidify his empire. By approving Christianity as a national religion of Rome, Constantine tried to seek the unity of the Roman Empire under one religion. Thanks to Constantine's pro-Christian policies, many believers of the polytheistic religions of Rome streamed into the Christian Church. This tightened Constantine's political grip, and Christianity positioned itself as the religion of Rome, expunging persecution and contempt it had received so far. However, the indiscreet conversion they did without having any kind of understanding or faith, rather produced an adverse effect, the influx of pagan customs into the church. Those who were tainted with polytheism of Rome looked as if they had converted, but in actuality it wasn't easy for them to get rid of the religious rites and institutions of worshiping the sun, the moon, and the stars, and various gods and goddesses, which they had worshipped since their forefathers. The church in Rome sought for solutions to disburden the pagans when they converted to Christianity. It was to bring in things similar to the gods that the pagans had believed into the church. They thought they would increase the number of pagan converts by doing that. For the Christian bishops introduced, with but slight alterations into the Christian worship, those rites and institutions by which formerly the Greeks and Romans and others had manifested their piety and reverence towards their imaginary deities, supposing that the people would more readily embrace Christianity if they perceived the rites handed down to them from their fathers still existing unchanged among the Christians. To attract more pagans, the church in Rome tried to Christianize various kinds of pagan gods to suit the Bible. One of the most representative things among them was accepting pagan customs of the sun god worship tradition. The church in Rome identified Jesus with the sun god. Inside of the church was decorated with various kinds of sun images, and the idea to worship the sun was established as if it were the truth of the church.
Okay, so by knowing this, that the Khazarian Mafia hid inside the Catholic Church, it's important to understand not only why that happened, but how that happened. And that is exactly what this map and this lecture is going to begin to show you. AD 100, an incredibly evil society emerges in Khazaria. Khazarians developed into a nation ruled by an evil king who had ancient Babylonian black arts, occult oligarchs, serving as his court. His priests, okay, it's my opinion, that his priests, the Khazarian priest, or excuse me, the Khazarian leader, his court priests, magic men, shaman, were likely Amalekites. That's my opinion, because it's the Amalekites that were honing and learning more and more about the phyla, the pharmacological chemicals that are within the plant kingdom, which again comes out of Esau, the man of the field. Okay, so the Amalekites are carrying this magic, this hallucinogenic magic, this plant magic, this spiritual magic, this evil magic, straight out of Khazaria, or straight into Khazaria from the Levant. There's magic going on at the high echelon of these societies. You see it in Pharaonic Egypt, you see it now in Khazaria, and it was also in Babylon when Talmudism was developed, and they're running on human sacrifice this Babylonianism that is this dominator culture, war-oriented, consuming culture that is basically birthing these evil societies, okay? That's the timeline. That's the magic that prevails through these groups. During this time, Khazarians become known to surrounding countries as thieves, murderers, road bandits, and for assuming the identities of those travelers they murdered as a normal occupational practice and way of life. And that's the key to know. Like I said earlier, this was a way of life. This is how Khazaria was birthed. This is how the Khazarians empowered themselves, was through these practices. And these are evil practices. They are using the inherent evil that is within nature. There's as much evil as there is good. They're using that and they're fomenting, fostering, they're culturing this evil so that they can build their society to control and basically own the world. So continuing, in AD 800, an ultimatum is delivered by Russia. Now looking here at the map, you can see, there it is, the Russian principalities. You see that? The Russian principalities are right above Khazaria, and it's Khazaria who is pilfering and eating and using and taking and stealing all the people that go into this land. So there are people in Russia that leak down into Khazaria, and they also get pilfered, and this happens repeatedly. And Russia knows, and China knows, about what is going on with these people that are passing through this land and how evil it is, okay? Okay. So 800 years later, remember the trade routes open in 1 BC, 800, so 900 years later or AD 800, so 800 years later, an ultimatum is delivered by Russia. The leaders of the surrounding nations, especially Russia, have had so many years of complaints by their citizens that as a group they deliver an ultimatum to the Khazarian king. They send a communique to the Khazarian king that he must choose one of the 3 Abrahamic religions for his people and make it his official state religion and require all Khazarian citizens to practice it and socialize all Khazarian children to practice that faith. The Khazarian king was given a choice between Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. The Khazarian king chose Judaism and promised to stay within the requirements laid out by the surrounding confederacy of nations led by the Russian Tsar. Now, this is going to get critical to understanding how they've hidden themselves, in that they have hidden themselves underneath this guise called the Ashkenazi Jew. And they are not practicing Ashkenazi Jews. They are practicing Babylonianism, Talmudism. That's what they practice. That's the spirituality they practice. They have put an umbrella to be in secret, to remain in secret, that they're practicing Ashkenazi Jews, that they've taken on the Abrahamic Jewish faith. That's what they say. What they're actually doing is practicing Satanism, but they're telling everyone and they're appearing to everyone that they're practicing one of the 3 Western religions. And again, look at the pattern. You see the same thing happen in the Catholic Church. They tell you that they're a Western religion that's embraced the idea of Jesus and forgiveness and sin and the remuneration of sin and so on and so forth. But underneath that umbrella is pure Satanism. Just like the tunnels that are underneath the Vatican, they were there long before there was the organized church. It's because these people were already practicing this down in the tunnels underneath, the caverns underneath the ground, because they have to remain in secret. They can't do these things out in the open. They have to do them in secret because they know if normal everyday folks that are not brainwashed with this Satan worship won't allow for it. They won't stand for it. People will stop it. So they know they have to hide it. Okay, so that's exactly what the Russian Tsar does. Okay, now looking here again at our map, you can see there the Russian principalities, they've given them warning. And this is what happens. Despite his agreement and promise, the Khazarian king and his inner circle of oligarchs kept practicing ancient Babylonian black magic, also known as secret Satanism. This Satanism involved occult ceremonies featuring child sacrifice after bleeding them out, drinking their blood. I put that in quotes because it's a literal statement. After bleeding them out, drinking their blood, and eating their hearts. The deep, dark secret of the occult ceremonies was that they were all based on ancient Baal worship, also known as worship of the owl. Now I'm going to begin to make a connection here for you.
Oh my God, Charles.
Worship of the owl. Have you all ever heard of a place called Bohemian Grove?
Yeah, boy.
It's a real place in Sonoma County. It's a real place.
Man, this is like one of the early times, you know, in terms of conspiracy theories. Was it Alex Jones that was getting in there? Oh man, I'm sorry. I know, such a legend, very classic, but they was sneaking in there. The journalist, I think, was Alex Jones. But dude, Bohemian Grove. I think it's a nice grove, though. I mean, gotta say, it looks very good, man. Looks quite old, but I'd love to visit that place actually to just see how that thing looks. At all, kind of creepy though.
And it's a place where these people go to carry out fake sacrifices, because they obviously can't have real sacrifices there out in the open because it wouldn't be tolerated. And so they carry out fake sacrifices at this place as sort of a mock celebration of what they are doing, and it's a mockery of us. But what I wanted you to notice is, and to believe something as outlandish as what I've just told you, first of all, look at these pictures. So we have the owl, and we know owl to these people is Baal, Molech. This is Satan, okay? They're putting a costume over the god they're actually worshiping. So they're worshiping Satan, but they can't have a giant Satan in this public park. So they anthropomorphize Satan into an owl. And why do they use Satan as the owl symbol? Because the owl is silent. The owl hunts at night. The owl can see at night. The owl is able to fly without making any noise. Owls, I don't know if you know this, but owls have little tufts of down on the ends of their plumage, so that as they fly through the air, the sharp plumage that causes turbulence doesn't cause turbulence because of the little soft down-like feathers that are on the edges of these feathers. And so they literally can fly without making one sound because there's no turbulent noise that comes off of their wings. Okay, these people love these kind of ideas. This idea that they can deceive others by secretly passing through the night, through the unknown.
And I think this is something also very hard to grasp for most people. You know, when you hear a lot of this, it sounds so vague. You know, not like, yeah, I mean, could be, you know, it's like, it's always with a lot of imagination, you know, it's very, how do you call that? Abstract. It's not that you wouldn't directly come up with a conclusion, right? So it's always a little bit far-fetched. But this is going on, man. And most people cannot believe that such high-ranking people are actually into that stuff. Yeah.
And capture people.
This is the United States of America, believe it or not. No, I have no idea how to draw. But it doesn't matter. What I'm going to tell you is this. We know where all the rat lines are and where they go. What is a rat line?
Trafficking line.
It's a trafficking line.
What is it? A rat?
Rat.
This one actually splits. A rat line. Up the East Coast and up the Hudson River. There's actually 5 main trafficking lines. This one kind of goes mainly actually from Louisiana, Alabama, so Florida's like that. Right in here, there's another one that goes
What is that? What is that?
There's 5 trafficking lines.
Human trafficking?
In the United States. Rat lines. What if I was to tell you something like this? I wasn't going to do this till Sunday. But what if I was to tell you that there is an attorney who has an office in Poughkeepsie, New York, and an office in Bellevue, Washington. Same attorney. And he's partnered with an attorney out of Bellevue and an attorney out of here. And what if I told you that out of this office, he created over 100 corporations to traffic children? I'm talking about entertainment companies that take pictures, lodging companies, short and long distance trucking companies, even an airline that's stationed at Boeing Field. offering companies, you have to have all elements of trafficking. So you have to have transportation, logistics, offerings, okay? 5x5 entertainment, Wild Child Entertainment. Corporations like that, he's set up. What if I told you he set them up under mostly aliases names, but we have the real names too? What if I told you he set them up for people who are police officers, county commissioners, and judges?
I'd believe it.
Okay.
I read Franklin Cover Up.
Now, what if I told you the same attorney in the state of New York owns 17 child protective services agencies in the state of New York? And he also owns 17 family courts. He owns the Spafford Center, which traffics children to Jerusalem and the United Kingdom.
Bro, who was that guy?
If I told you I had pictures of 2 American boys with a Hezbollah boy over in Jerusalem carrying AK-47s, and one's 7 and one's 11. And I know where family they came from here in America.
Oh my God, bro. For real?
What if I told you in 1983 he bought a company from William Casey's law firm? The DOD guy is going to start scribbling here when I mention names. I'm serious. William Casey. Who was William Casey? He was the head of the OSS before it became the CIA. He was our first CIA director, and then he ran the SEC.
Securities and Exchange Commission?
Yes. And helped.
They're stacked deep.
Helped set up our whole birth certificate fraud thing. He also started the Spafford Center under a different name back in the 30s. And he died in 1975, and in 1983, this attorney bought it from Casey's law firm. It's a corporation sole. Does anybody know what a corporation sole is?
No, what's that?
It's a corporation that started so old that is grandfathered into under all laws.
Dude, this is all so deep, man. A lot of information. It's like you can watch that thing probably 10 times in a row, man. Or like, doesn't have to be in a row, but you can watch that thing 10 times and rewatch it, and you always find out something new because this is so much information. I'd love to know the original video of that speech of the guy. Super interesting. Gotta look that up at some point.
It's a powerful corporation. A corporation sole. It was owned by William Casey.
Wasn't Casey murdered? Or no?
I wish he was. Anyway, and he can take children out of New York City or any other county that he has one of his 17 agencies. He can show up at your house with a cop, kick in your door, his CPS agents take a kid, jump you through a bunch of parental hoops, terminate your parental rights through his own judges and his own guardian ad litems and his own, and he's licensed by the state to do business. He's protected under the commerce laws. He's sanctioned by the state. When you run his name of his family services companies on Google, they come up higher than the actual state of New York's family services. Family services companies on Google, they come up higher than the actual state of New York's family services in the search engines.
Because it's paying to have that thing.
So if you're going to turn somebody into CPS and you Google it, good chance you're turning into a guy who set up hundreds of pedophile companies.
Because they do protect each other.
Now, what do you think about that?
And what I want you to notice is look at the age of these people. This is a sophisticated society. This isn't a bunch of 20-year-olds and teens that are going to dance around an owl in the middle of a park in Sonoma County.
Exactly.
These are adults. Look at how they're dressed. They're wearing suits and ties. Look at and then notice, look at the face of the gentleman on the left there. Smug. They're giving you a smug look. Look at the 1, 2, third guy from the front, sitting in the chair. Look at the way he's looking at the camera. It's
this guy. This guy. He's just chilling. Hello. Hello. Hola, papi.
A smug look. Same with the guy next to him. There's even a guy smiling back there. You see, these people know, in other words, they know what they're doing.
Exactly. Of course they know.
It's my contention, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it's my contention that the KM attempted to bring in Hollywood into the presidency using Ronald Reagan. Now, I don't know how deep Ronald Reagan was into this. I think a lot of his presidency, he was just being controlled and used because nobody tells these people what to do. I mean, JFK tried to tell him, and they killed him. So whatever was happening with Ronald Reagan, I think that they were using him as a figurehead. They were trying to bring in someone that was controllable, that all the public already liked, a handsome guy, and a well-speaking, a well-spoken man. He knows how to handle himself in public, and he's very good and adept at having public dialogue, and he can even play different parts. He's an actor. He's good at playing parts, and these kind of human characteristics would be very helpful to a group who's trying to deceive a public, who want a figure at the top who's controllable, that's likable, and can play the part. And by sticking Hollywood figures in there, they would be able to even more easily and more fluidly control the public. There you can see Richard Nixon. He was neck deep in the whole thing. This is 1955. And then I also threw in a couple extra pictures here. This is 1904. Look at this early picture. They don't even have the owl out yet.
Dude, this is one hell of a picture, man. I mean, look at this. Are you for real, bro? This looks like AI to me at this point, you know? With all this AI crap at the moment, thinking that this stuff is 1904, I think? Should it be 1904? Is it saying 1904 on the corner, right? Down there, on the right corner, right? Dude, oh my god. Looks like some nice fine dining. I wonder what they're eating. I mean, no cameras around, probably, no journalists at that time. Dude, this is one creepy little dinner. Oh man. I bet the pizza was good. Got the good pizza going. With a lot of cheese, man. The cheese. Oh. The cheese.
Okay. And then here, 20 years later, this is 1924. It says at the bottom right there. I don't know if you can read it.
Oh my god.
Okay, they're getting more organized.
What a nice...
Then look here, looks to be in like the 50s.
Oh, man.
About 20, 30 years later.
What a nice place,
Look how
though.
many compared to this one above. The tables are chock full. More tables. I couldn't get a date on this. Maybe somebody knows. But this is the first owl they had. Look at it.
That quality, though.
And then they brought in this other one. This looks like a paper mache or, poured concrete or something. But they replaced it with this. And I just do that to show you it's developing. Look how they added a whole stage, and there's a sacrificial altar right there at the bottom of the altar. In fact, if you look at the picture that I originated this talk with, there on the bottom right, you can see the fire. And they're doing a sacrifice. That's a sacrifice. A mock sacrifice. Okay, this is owl worship. This is how they hide from you. This is a high society. That's my point in doing this. This is a high organized society. They're wealthy, nobility. They're bringing in the U.S. president. Okay, these are not your everyday Joe people. These are the folks that are steering and controlling the world. And look at them. They're out there doing mock sacrifices in front of an owl. Folks, that's not coincidence. That's not silly games. This is what you need to understand. These people are not playing a game.
That's what I mean.
They are dead serious. It's so outlandish that it would seem that this is just a joke. Nobody would ever believe this.
And that's the thing, man. I really... the way, I got his energy, bro, because that's what I mean. It's like you don't believe it because it's so surreal, dude. Like everybody's gonna think that's just a joke, man. Especially when you get taught by, movies and everything that this is just fiction, just Hollywood, man. Something like that will never really exist, Dude, it is real, bro. It is real.
That's exactly why.
It is real. Listen.
They do it. You would never believe it. Okay. In order to fool the Confederacy of Nations led by Russia that were watching Khazaria, the Khazarian king melded these Luciferian black magic practices with Judaism and created a secret satanic hybrid religion known as Babylonian Talmudism. This was made the national religion of Khazaria and nurture the same evil that Khazaria was known for before. You see, this king is a deceiver, but in his nature. And he developed this religion called Babylonian Talmudism. And what is it? I looked it up. It is a highly racist Zionism. And then to summarize in some statements, it's a superior race theory. Right? They utilize rites of passage. They have exclusive access to God. But see, I capitalize God to say that they're claiming that that is who they are worshiping, but they're actually worshiping Satan. So that G would be small. But what they're claiming is that this is God. That's what they're claiming. So they have exclusive access to this God because of their blood sacrifices, because of their giving themselves to this God completely and doing evil against the hated Goy, which is us. That's what the Talmud people, the Babylonian Talmudism folk, we are the Goy. Meat. We are the meat and cattle. We are their asset to use and destroy and slaughter as they wish, okay?
We are the Goyim. The Goy, dude. To be honest, man, I was thinking about, like, I'm sorry, man. I'm just looking at my camera the whole time because my camera is acting up like, Dude, it's so annoying, man. I cannot, like, stream like that, bro. Really have to sort the thing out. So anyways, I was thinking about, like, having some funny t-shirts, man, with funny sentences. I've seen some hilarious shirts online. I do think those are scam sites. There's this site, like, making unwearable shirts. Dude, I love them, man. I wish I could wear them because they're funny as hell. But I think I would end up in prison or something when I would wear them, man. But I swear, they are pure gold, bro. They are funny things out in this world, man. But what is not funny is my camera. I'm telling you. My boy playing with my nerves today. Oh my god. I'm sorry, guys. This isn't as smooth as I was hoping to be. But, well, let's continue.
That's this religion. That's this Talmudism, this Babylonian Talmudism. Blood sacrifice oriented, meaning that they actually carry that out. Calendar dates obsessed. They're obsessed with their yearly rituals. If you look at the satanic calendar, there are literally festivals, holidays, all kinds of celebrations every single month, are critical celebrations to it. These are people who are oriented to the cosmic time frame, and we're going to get into that when we get to the Saturnalia and Saturn worship. But they are highly oriented to the cosmic time frames. And so they are obsessed with calendar dates and with annual traditions. They're highly tribal. Again, that comes out of the Canaanite stuff. Absolute in opinion and secure in belief system. So that their opinion is absolute and final. And secure in belief system, meaning everything they know is centered around their belief system. And they don't care if you believe it or not. This is the system of belief that they subscribe to, you see. Their god is Lucifer, a being composed of pure evil. Okay, we're going to get more and more into this as we keep going, because that's going to tie right into Saturn worship. Sadly, the Khazarians continued their evil ways, robbing and murdering those from surrounding countries who traveled through Khazaria. Khazarian robbers often attempted to assume their identities after they murdered these visitors and became masters of disguises and false identities, a practice they have continued even to this very day, along with their child sacrifice occult ceremonies, which are actually ancient Baal worship. And we know that, and we've been talking about that. No need to walk into that. We got a lot still to cover. Okay, so in our timeline here, somewhere between around 965, right around in there, to 1200, Russia moves in and obliterates Khazaria, and you're going to see what happened. Here we go. The Russians lead a group of nations surrounding Khazaria and invaded in order to stop the Khazarian crimes against their people, which include kidnapping their young children and infants for their blood sacrifice ceremonies to Baal. The Khazarian king and his inner court of criminals and murderers come to be known as the Khazarian Mafia by neighboring countries. The Khazarian leaders had a well-developed spy network through which they obtained prior warning of the invasion and escaped from Khazaria to European nations in the West, taking their vast fortune with them in gold and silver.
Bro.
The Khazarian leaders had a well-developed spy network through which they obtained prior warning of the invasion. What's critical to know about that This shows you that they had already infiltrated in that 800 or so years. They had already infiltrated Russia. They had already infiltrated down south into Mesopotamia. They had already infiltrated into the surrounding countries with spies and informants. This is a pernicious group, folks. They are not idiots. They have a pulse of what is going on, and that is exactly why this Khazarian king knew that the Russians were about to invade, and he hauled all his gold, all his court, all his magicians, all these people that surround him, hauled off and went to Bohemia. And we're gonna see that here in my little chart. Now we've got the artwork from Dylan Monroe. And we see here, I got a little red line. The Khazarians went to Bavaria. And if we look at this map here, you can see the first initial go that the Khazarian king did was to leave Khazaria, and he escaped to Bohemia, which is ancient Austria. That's Austria. And if we look at our timeline here, 1280, so this is right in the middle of the Dark Ages. And if you look at it, it's around 1200 AD. Well, from 1200 AD to 1415 AD is when they were hiding in Bohemia and organizing and honing their skills and talents with the help of Satan to figure a way to infiltrate all the West. The Khazarian king and his court mafia plotted eternal revenge against the Russians and the surrounding nations that invaded Khazaria and drove them from power. They laid low and regrouped while assuming new identities. In secret, they continued their satanic child blood and sacrifice rituals, and trusted Baal to give them the whole world and all its riches, as they claimed he had promised them, as long as they kept bleeding out and sacrificing children and infants to him obviously being Satan, the black sun, Lucifer. We can see there, this little map I made here. They move into Germany, conquer that, take over that royalty there, on into France, and then down into Spain. They took over all these royal families. To accomplish their evasion, they hired Oliver Cromwell to murder King Charles I and make England safe for banking again. This began the English Civil Wars, which raged for nearly a decade, resulting in regicide of the royal family, that's killing off of the bloodline, and hundreds of the genuine English nobility. This is how the city of London was set up as the banking capital of Europe and launched the beginning of the British Empire. And then I write, this is why the Queen of England, King Charles, and the entire Royal English court is not blood authentic nobility. It's because the royalty in these nation states was infiltrated by the KM, literally. They took their leadership and they bred with the royalty, and they killed off the men, and then replaced those men with their people and their kids. Do you see? They completely took over. This is Oliver Cromwell on the left, 1599 to 1658, and King Charles I on the right, 1600 to 1649. They were contemporaries, obviously. And yes, indeed, Cromwell imprisoned Charles in 1646 for treason. It was because I read into it, won't get into it, but basically King Charles wouldn't abide by the demands of Cromwell, and so they killed him. Charles would not repent nor seek resolution for peace, so Cromwell had his head lopped off in 1649. The end. And they even had it in the newspaper. They show the blood squirting out of his head as everybody's standing around watching it.
Crazy.
And King Charles was no more.
Bad times.
The KM decides to infiltrate and hijack all world banking using Babylonian black magic, also known as Babylonian money magic, or the secret art of making money from nothing, using the power of pernicious usury, which is illegal taxes, to accumulate interest. The KM used their vast fortune to enter into a new system of banking based on secret Babylonian black magic money magic that they claim to have learned from the evil spirits of Baal in return for their many child sacrifices to him. The reason why magic has a K on it, that's from Anton LaVey. That is to basically show high magic, magic that is above just the normal everyday black magic that people are practicing. This is the magic that the Luciferian practices. This is the magic that the elite and royalty practice. And so it's...
Again, Hollywood is just shoving down your throat like magic is this Harry Potter thing, you know, that you should not take serious. But it's a real thing, man. A super real thing. It's working in ways we cannot even imagine, you know. You just have to trust yourself that this is real And then a lot of things in this world make sense, man. They start to make sense, even though it's hard to believe. I know.
Denoted with a K to signify it. This Babylonian money magic involved the substitution of paper credit certificates for gold and silver deposits, which allowed travelers to travel with their money in a form that offered easy replacement should they lose the certificates or have them stolen. Interesting how the very problem that was started by the Khazarians, who also had a solution provided by them. That's a Hegelian dialectic. Okay, what they were doing when they killed off, to go back, when they were killing off King Charles, they're taking over the banking system. This is 1649. Okay, and they're going to use pernicious usury, just like they're still doing to this day, to begin to tax the citizens, to begin to steal money from people. Okay, they did this through what's called a Hegelian dialectic. Okay, and this is basically, it's a straw man. And what you have is you have a thesis, an antithesis, and a synthesis, and these support an agenda and carry out that agenda. Okay, so what Khazaria wanted was a way of taxing people that would force them to give them money, even though they weren't going to do anything good with that money. They still wanted to be able to tax these people. So what they use is a dialogue, is a conniving, deceitful dialogue to trick people into doing what you want, into them doing what you want. And so in this case here, we have a problem, a thesis, create a victim with a posed problem. So the way they're going to tax people is they're going to create a problem. They're going to create a victim. In other words, if you don't pay us taxes, we won't be able to bring in military forces to protect you. Sure. And you will be exposed. And if you are exposed, they could come and take you, rape you, and there would be nothing, no one would be able to save you. Okay, so you put fear into people like that. And so you get people to do what you want by filling them with fear. Okay, and so then the same group that creates the problem, they also create the solution. And so they say, the solution is, for you're not dying in war, is give us money. You give us money, we'll be able to get all the munitions, and we'll be able to hire all the people and the soldiers to go out and protect you. So all you have to do to resolve your fear of being killed in war is give us money. WMDs. Do you remember when they talked about WMDs? And they said, hey, if we don't go in and destroy Saddam Hussein, he's going to use weapons of mass destruction in New York, in Chicago, in San Francisco.
Same thing with Iran at the moment. The weapons of mass destructions. The nukes that are so dangerous. And a country starting with an I and an S wants to protect us from that. And also the US. They're doing things at the moment. I don't know what's happening over there, man. We better pray for the good. Better pray.
He's going to use these biological chemical weapons, and he's going to destroy us. And so we've got to go in there and completely obliterate this entire society of people because these people want to kill you. It's the same narrative. And so then what happens? Everybody pays off the taxes. They sign off their rights with the Patriot Act, and people willingly, that's the magic, they willingly turn over their rights. They willingly pay money. They willingly vote for these warmongers. You see, and it's all through fear. Another one was COVID. If you don't get this elixir that we have made injected into your body, you saw it. You saw what they're doing. You're going to die. They called it a long, dark winter. You're going to be sick. All you people that don't get this, you're all going to die. You're going to be ill health. You're going to be spreading your germs to everybody else. And you're going to be a nuisance to society. You should be banned from society. You're a terrible person. You see? And that's how you coerce people with fear to go out and have a injection that hasn't even been tested. They'll just willingly do it. See, that's the black magic. You get people to willingly turn themselves over.
Yeah, bro.
There were actually people that were celebrating. They're celebrating turning themselves over to a science that was completely, well, they said it was untested, but they knew exactly what it was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with vaccines long before COVID. Remember the food pyramid? That was another one. Remember how they told you, your baseline food that everybody needs to be eating tons and tons of is grain. Tons and tons of grain. And
really?
What happened?
Is that real, bro? Bro, All that grain, dude.
Built a gluten-intolerant society. Blew out the enzymatic structure with the poisons that they were putting on all the wheat, the glyphosate and whatever other chemicals that they use. And then that goes in and destroys the enzymatic system, the probiotics and all that in people's gut. And then they develop these other problems with their gut that they have no idea is coming from the food that they're eating. And they just think, oh, tough luck, I'm gluten intolerant. This is not by accident. That's what you need to understand. They're doing this maliciously, intentionally. You are being intentionally deceived. This isn't a mistake or coincidence. This is intentional. That's what you have to understand about this group. I think one of the biggest ones is the man-made climate change. They've got everyone convinced that just breathing, you are destroying the planet. You are just being alive. You are a threat to the planet. It's this.
And this is working on so many levels, you know. It's this being a victim thing. And this is a huge thing, man. Especially in Germany, we are in this victim role so much. It's not even funny anymore, bro. I swear. It's like the Germans are going to be guilty for everything till the end, man. Oh, man, this is a big point he's talking about. I swear. Cannot underestimate that thing.
Same as the sin con from the church. Just being born, you are sin. Just coming out of sin, you are now sinful, and you are a bane to society unless you believe in this religion. And it's the same thing. This climate change, you are a bane to society unless you pay us taxes, unless you pay us money. You shouldn't even be alive.
This is so funny.
This puts fear into people. This puts self-hate into people. This undermines people's development. Do you see how psychologically that harms a person when they think, just my being alive, just from being born and just breathing, I'm terrible. And this is how a person is sidetracked, and they don't realize that they have been caught up in a Hegelian dialectic, a straw man, and they've bought the straw man, be it climate change, sin, COVID, WMDs, it doesn't matter. They've bought it, and once you've bought it, you then will shape your life around it. And this is how this Khazarian Mafia operates. This is black magic. Black magic is an abracadabra. Black magic is controlling millions of people with a simple disease. That's black magic.
100%.
Black magic is getting hundreds of millions of people to gladly give you their money and encourage you to go to war and sign away their rights. That's black magic. People have been conned with the idea that it's this hocus pocus thing. It's not. It's mind control. It's psychology. It's the psychology of fear, which destroys and corrodes your mind. This is why I started this lecture with, it's so important to conquer your fears. And you don't conquer your fears by praying them away. You don't conquer your fears by wishing them away. You don't conquer your fears by asking someone to save you. You conquer your fears through knowledge. You conquer your fears by learning, oh, that's why they promoted WND. You conquer your fears through knowledge. You conquer your fears by learning, oh, that's why they promoted WNDs. That's why they promoted vaccines. That's why they promoted the food pyramid.
Yeah, boy.
That's why they promoted man-made climate change. That's why they made me a sinner. Now you know why. You will conquer your fear of those things by knowing why and how they came about. And then all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. That changes perspective completely.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
This is how you free yourself. This is literally how you free yourself. Eventually, the Khazarian king and his small surrounding corps infiltrated Germany with a group that chose the name the Bauers of Germany. Bauer means farmer in German. To represent them and carry on their ball-powered system of evil. The Bauers of the Red Shield, which represented their secret blood-based child sacrifices, changed their name to Rothschild, also known as Child of the Rock or Satan. The Bauer surname genetically traces back to Austria and Bavaria. Remember how I mentioned earlier the Khazarians went into Bohemia, Bavaria, Austria? There you go. We have their name traced right back to Bavaria, Bohemia. And that ties directly to Khazaria, which ties directly, follow, to the Amalekites, which ties directly to Noah, Esau, all that stuff. You see? Are you following it now? You following it now? Okay, so time to do a deep dive. I found this at the top right there. You see that address? That's where I found this.
We're in deep in it, bro.
The occult history of the Rothschild family crest. The family crest has a red shield and a hexagram. Did you know that the Star of David is a hexagram? It's a 6-pointed star. We're going to get into that. I've underlined the critical elements. The Rothschild family crest, this red shield. The hexagram is also known as the Seal of Solomon, the Magen David, or the Star of David. It was a symbol of Moloch and Ashtoreth. Saturn, which has been known to represent Satan, was also represented by the hexagram. You're going to say to yourself, now, why would Satan be associated with the hexagram? I'm going to tell you why. Interesting to note, there under Rothschild family crest occultism, Rome was first called Saturnia, the city of Saturn. And if we look at our little map here, look there, right next to the Roman Empire, you see cult of Saturn. Okay, the synagogue of Satan. Who is that? That's the Babylonian Talmudists that are underneath Judea, the Ashkenazi Jews. That's why that says synagogue of Satan. It's because these are Babylonian magicians who are practicing Satanism underneath the guise of being Jews, Ashkenazi Jews. And then across from that, we have the cult of Saturn, the Roman Empire. This comes out of Amun-Ra and the pharaohs. We just don't have time to get into it. Saturn is the black sun. This is the critical thing you need to know. Saturn is the black sun, and the symbolism of the black sun ties directly into the hexagram and the rings of Saturn and the worship of the black sun.
Do you know what, guys? I think I'm gonna call it. Because I feel like this is the next chapter that is starting now. So my boy is going to talk about the Saturn cult, you know, and how everything is kind of connected to Saturn, which is definitely another interesting topic. I'm very sorry that my camera was acting up that much. I hope I'm gonna find a solution soon. Anyways, want to stream more often to have some more output for you guys. So if you enjoy the content, definitely leave a comment and let me know what you want to look at together. Or maybe you're going to watch it afterwards. But please, man, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think of this whole thing, because I find this is mind-blowing. And it's also good. We're half through this thing. It's so much information that it's good to take a break to digest everything we just heard, you know, and think about it. You know, really recapitulate. How do you call that in English? Recapitulate? Yeah, I think you know what I mean. Oh my god. You know what I mean? Just reflect the things that he was mentioning and see how it correlates with the world we are living in today. And if you see any similarities or patterns, as he was saying, connecting the dots, realizing there are patterns will, basically set you free. So this was amazing. Amazing. Love you, guy. Love you, Charles. Great work, man. Great work, Charles. So, and in case you didn't, and you made it through with me, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave a comment below, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Until then, guys, I'm out of here. Have a good time with your loved ones.